Okay, you can see the game, hear me, hear the game, and I am indeed recording. Dominique of the counting tables, that was a Dediver. Pavel Sasko, a man of short stature and enormous spirit, was a hearty and fiery dancer, sadly forgot to eat, and perished. Karina Shahira, what's the pleasure in slaughtering a weakling? Wish to draw blood, draw it from a king. In Antonio Eccles, joined among men, conveyor of deep thoughts. I have no idea if these are nods or what.
Think your friend's hand will make for a nice broth?
You've clearly honed your sense of humor. But we are not cannibals, Geralt. I took a fragment of tissue from the hand. It will suffice to prepare some resonance.
What did you do with the rest?
I cremated it, as our codex commands. A raven told me you'd acquired the necessary ingredient.
I can't remember the hand. Did we cut a hand off the vampire we're hunting, the beast of Beauclair? I think it's been too long.
Pretty helpful creatures. Calling them often?
I try not to overdo it, but they can be so useful, as they were now, when I merely needed to be sure I could arrive in time should things go sour.
Managed fine alone, but thanks for the thought. Gonna need much longer to finish brewing resonance? Mentioned a last ingredient, too. What about that?
That, I fear, might prove troublesome. You see, to use the concoction to summon the memories of one, the solution must contain the blood of another specimen of the same species.
Shouldn't be a problem. I happen to know a higher vampire who should be willing to help. Right, Regis?
It's not that simple, I'm afraid. While you were away, I tried my damnedest to identify a replacement, but alas, none such exists.
Not sure I understand what the problem is. Can't we just draw some of your blood?
The blood must be in an agitated state. As I'm certain you know, higher vampires can change their corporeal shell. As our flesh changes, so does our blood's chemical composition. To make a long story short, I shall need to induce in myself a state of strong psychokinetic arousal. In brief, madness, rabidity. And that stands to be very, very dangerous.
Okay, all I'm hearing here is I really wish I was a higher vampire. That's all I'm getting here. Certainly not cybernetic, but apparently they can, shapeshift and are immortal unless killed by another higher vampire. What's not to like here? What's not to like? Except for the lack of, cybernetic goodies. But, still, step up from just being a, useless meatbag.
Dangerous? Why? I mean, you'll still be you, right?
True, but I should be highly agitated, in a state of fury. You know better than I that fury cannot be controlled. If you've ever seen an enraged vampire, you know very well that all who find themselves nearby will be in grave danger.
How will we handle that? I'd rather not have you lunge at me, claws extended.
That makes two of us. But worry not. I've thought it through very thoroughly. Details to follow soon.
Answer hazy. Try again later.
Alright, so what do you want to do?
We shall visit Tesham Mutna, an ancient vampire estate. There we will find cages suspended in the air. I will enter one, be confined. You will lure beasts there. Beasts you will then kill. The bloodletting should prove profuse. Abundant enough so that the blood scent will drive me mad. Wild.
Ooh, this is sounding rough.
Tesham, Mutna. What's it like?
It is a place of torment. A torture chamber. Long ago, shortly after we'd arrived in this world, one among us named Kagmar developed such a taste and lust for human blood that in one night he could imbibe an entire village. This brought trouble on the entire species. Common folk wearied quickly of living in constant fear. They began to hunt us, seek the aid of mages and witches in tracking us down.
So what? Not like they could ever hope to kill you.
But they were bothersome. Forgive the comparison, but when did you last enjoy mosquitoes buzzing around your head? In any case, the other vampires decided something had to be done. Kagmar had to be caught and punished. A torture chamber was thus outfitted in the dungeons of Tesham Mutna. Inside it, a cage made entirely of a special alloy of silver, dalvinite, and meteorite steel. Kagmar was captured and locked in the cage. Sat there over 2 centuries, driven to fury time after time, never able to escape. Thus I know the cage will withstand the fury to which we shall drive my humble being.
Christ. Also, just in a night he could imbibe an entire village. I'm just thinking, yeah, I basically stumbled onto fetish out of that already. Not of him, but his own vampire chick. Yes. Truly, if you can think of it, there's art of it.
See no reason to dawdle. Tesham, Mutna. Take me there.
In a moment. Just one last thing.
Loading. Loading.
What was that?
Blood. Oh, the last favor the Raven did me. I've also taken some Sancurium, a solution that sharpens one's sense of smell. One drop of blood shall smell like a gallon to me now.
You crazy? You're a recovering addict.
Your outrage warms my heart, Geralt. But you must remain calm. I have no choice. As things stand, the die is cast. High time we set off for Tesham Mutna. My head's spinning already, and you're starting to smell quite tasty.
And you're starting to scare me.
They walked that way, but I think that way is just a wall. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just to stand there for a moment like, why did we walk this way? Just a nibble, Geralt, please.
We have arrived. The sacrificial chamber of torture and torment lies underground.
Sure you know what you're doing?
I can only hope I do. Please, let's go. The longer we delay, the less control I shall have of my faculties. I'd really prefer not to hurt you.
Faculties nearly turned into faculties there, and it just added to it.
You lead. Scurvers must be getting close to their feeding ground.
Correct. I told you there'd be danger. Beyond this wall lies...
An ancient vampire dungeon. Seen a lot of things in my time. Nothing quite like this, though.
I feel honored. A man with such a wealth of experience, yet I'm about to show him something new. Now, to open it.
How the hell?
It's an ancient form of protection against unwanted guests. The mechanism which releases the latch reacts only to a higher vampire's blood.
Tricky mechanisms, a vampire hideout. Fortified, secured. Must have been important to your species once. Toussaint.
It shall always be so. During the conjunction, the gate from our world into this one opened upon this land and no other. This was the first place we saw.
Huh? Explains it. Though I'm thinking but I'm just wondering, like, it's the mechanism only opens to a higher vampire's blood. It's to seal it from unwanted intrusion. Is that like all the protection that was on it? Like, say if they rolled up a cannon to it, or how, you know, Raynor got lost on his way from StarCraft and ended up here, used a siege tank. Would that work? Like blasting the door down, or the vault beside, you know? I'm just wondering. Like, how far does that protection go?
Human husbandry and care. This for real?
The author observed humans, their behavior, over the many years he spent breeding them. Morally suspect though it may be, it's a thorough survey of the topic.
Oh, at least there's that. Champion of Tesham Mutna? I am he who serves the tribe. Exalted above men, I renounce human weakness. Uplifted above men, I become keeper of my flock. Filled with strength, I turn my sword against the enemies of the tribe. I am master and slave. I am executor of the will of the tribe. I accept this sword and this armor, so I may serve the tribe. Killing an opponent restores vitality. The amount of vitality restored equals 1% of maximum vitality for each element of the set worn. Currently, that amount is 0%. Six parts to the set, but only a 3-set bonus. And it's not a bad set. It's better than what I have, but it's actually 9 levels lower than me. But it's heavy armor, so no.
This place. There's evil here. Death hangs in the air.
Yes. Great many beings have breathed their last here.
Quite a few. Christ. And wait, did he say he'd spent decades studying humans? Christ. The amount he could have produced in that time.
Glyphs are carved into the rock. Coated with blood used to be. They mean something?
They're emblems, symbols of, well, what you would call tribes, dispersed throughout the world after the conjunction. My ancestors placed them here to remind us all where we came from.
And this one? Which tribe's this?
Garisham. My tribe, and Deadlouse. We both remained in this part of the world.
It's like a teardrop on a hand. It's giving vampires blood drop, I guess. Or, I know, Assassin's Creed symbol on someone's hand.
What's this symbol mean?
It's the symbol of the dead. Those who went east, beyond the Blue Mountains.
Serpent coiled around the hand.
Seems your kind assembled a peculiar little library.
Indeed. Though I personally did not lay a hand to it.
Might need to wear this set for a thing. The most important aspect of raising human livestock is to provide the herd with conditions that, on one hand, guarantee their survival, but on the other hand, do not extend too far beyond the minimum needed for that survival. To be borne in mind that people are creatures bestowed with great intelligence, or rather, cunning and instincts that allow them to gain as much as possible from their environment. In terms of husbandry, this means humans will always try to obtain more than we give them. It's recommended, therefore, to provide each individual with a place to sleep, a meal twice a day, and permanent access to water. These conditions, which might seem over luxurious to some, ensure the optimal production of high-quality hemoglobin. More details on diet in later chapters. Also essential is access to air, without which humans will die within minutes. There's no need to be concerned about the ability for human livestock to multiply in conditions described above. If they are ensured a minimal existence and male and female are mixed, they will calculate irrespective whether they're in captivity or not. It is worth mentioning here that there is a school of thought that suggests treating human livestock with greater freedom and care, including providing them with better quality fodder and a certain degree of freedom. Let me start again. It is worth mentioning here that there is a school of thought that suggests treating human livestock with greater freedom and care, including providing them with better quality fodder and a certain degree of freedom. This allegedly ensures a greater amount of favorable elements in the blood, makes it tastier. However, it is worth mentioning that this method of husbandry is much more difficult and requires emotional bonding techniques, which we discussed in following chapters. You can hear me, you can hear the game, I am recording, and you can see the game. Okay. Sorry, I got flustered there. As I've said before in many a video, I have flashbacks to different things. It doesn't necessarily even have to be related to what I'm reading. I just, like, oh, I made a mistake when I was a kid. Like, panic. Like, seriously, I've been panicked about a mistake in junior infants. Or a mistake I made 6 years ago at a party, because I took what someone said quite literally, rather than ignoring what they said and just sat down. But anyway. Yeah, so I just got flustered as I was reading there and just sort of like, bleh. I feel I read it weirdly. That's why I read it a second time and tried to calm myself as I was reading it. In recent decades, many of us have come to believe that a much more effective way of obtaining good quality human blood than hunting individuals is their systematic, controlled husbandry. Apart from the obvious advantages such as being able to control what the fuck eats and the ability to crossbreed specific individuals to obtain offspring with the best hemoglobin, another clear advantage to breeding human fox is that domesticated humans held in confinement, as opposed to those living in their natural habitats, villages and towns, become less aggressive and therefore less troublesome. When it comes to farming humans, there are various schools on which two seem to have gained the widest acceptance in recent times, namely battery cage and free-range husbandry. This thesis describes in detail the advantages and disadvantages, as well as methods of carrying out each type of breeding. As an introduction, it is worth mentioning the basic differences between both types. Battery cage human husbandry, described very accurately and in detail in the book Human Husbandry, is the placing of several male and female individuals in a closed, restricted space. Is the placing of several male and female individuals in closed, restricted space, with permanent access to air, food, and water. This form of breeding differs from free range in that the flock is not permitted to leave the breeding area and is held captive for the entirety of their lives. Free range, on the other hand, involves leaving the flock in its natural habitat or creating a habitat that simulates it closely, i.e. creating villages, more on which can be found in a later chapter, human villages, establishing and growing a herd, and then making the herd psychologically or physically dependent on its owner. The most effective method for making a human individual dependent is guaranteeing its safety and permanent access to high-quality feed. It is worth adding that a human that trusts its owner does not feel fear, does not defend itself when having its blood drunk, which limits the production of noradrenal and cortisol, which have a negative impact on the taste of blood. Furthermore, it may happen that a domesticated, free-range human may feel a certain pleasure when its owner drinks its blood, most likely associated with sexual tension, which causes an intensification in the blood's flavor.
It's not far now, Geralt.
Cells? Who for?
Disgraceful. Excruciatingly so, this particular page from our history. I'd rather not summon the demons of the past if it's